What's wrong, Frankie?
Nothing.
Nothing? Why, this mangled copy of Browner's Gothic grammar would tell a different story.
Just these darn derivations.
I know they may look daunting, but with a little perseverance and Verner's law, you can tackle most any problem.
What's Verner's law?
You don't know?
They didn't teach us.
Well, Verner's law is a voicing rule of early Germanic, a very important voicing rule. So why don't I tell you, and you, all about it. The story of Verner's Law begins in 1749 with the birth of Sir William Jones in England. Jones was a scholar of Greek and Latin who, even as a boy, found that he could learn ancient languages with the greatest of ease. Through his brilliance and hard work, Jones's knowledge of the classical world surpassed even that of his teachers, who found that they did not know exactly what to do with him apart from letting him continue to read on his own. But alas, Jones was not able to put his skills in philology to any kind of practical use, and he would have to choose another field if he was going to support himself through life. Things became so hopeless, in fact, that William Jones found it necessary to enter law school and be trained for the bar. Though he graduated with honors and a great breadth of knowledge of jurisprudence, his love of ancient and far-off cultures never waned. And so, when an opportunity arose to fill a judicial post in India, he jumped at the chance and was off to the subcontinent. India, though a British colony at the time, was still a great mystery to most Westerners, and those who went there had no idea what they could expect. But Jones was the adventurous sort, and he made his journey there his greatest adventure. Soon after his arrival in Bengal, in the northeastern part of the country, William Jones established the Royal Asiatic Society in the hopes of enlightening the world about the history and culture of India. Poking around for ancient texts, Jones found that they were not difficult to come by, and that several languages were preserved there whose origins reached farther back into antiquity than anything that could be found in Europe. One of these languages was called Sanskrit, and Jones set his mind to becoming proficient in that most revered of classical languages of India. In his readings, Jones discovered something fascinating and unexpected about Sanskrit. The words and the grammar of that language were not dissimilar to those of Latin and Greek, and what was more, they seemed more complete, less degraded. Jones theorized that Latin, Greek, and Sanskrit had all come from some common ancestor and then developed along different lines. This fascinating new idea was made public by him at the next meeting of the Royal Asiatic Society. Jones's idea took a while to catch on, but when Sanskrit became more widely known in the West and other modern languages began to be studied more in depth, the idea of a proto-language other than Hebrew became more and more popular. By the early 19th century, the term Indo-European had been created, referring to a language family spanning from India all the way to Europe and encompassing such diverse languages as Latin, Greek, Hindi, Welsh, French, German, Icelandic, Russian, and many others, reshaping our conception of language completely. Can one little boy change the world? I guess he can, if he's William Jones.
Heck, I know all about Indo-European.
Well, maybe, but you probably don't know how certain consonants shifted from Proto-Indo-European to Germanic.
Gee, no.
Well, let me tell you about the next important people in this story, the Brothers Grimm. The early 19th century was a busy time for linguists, as they now had a new and exciting framework for investigation, and many language families had never really been given much serious consideration before. Though many of the most important discoveries in Indo-European were made by the noted philologists Rasmus Christian Rask and Franz Bopp, much of the information that came to light about the Germanic languages was codified by the Brothers Grimm. These were the same brothers Grimm who compiled the most famous collection of European fairy tales, telling of the dangers of bears in the woods, wolves in the woods, and little girls in the woods. In the second edition of his Deutsche Grammatik, Jakob Grimm, using data from both Rask and his own work, formed what was later to be known as Grimm's Law, or the first consonant shift. In the development from Indo-European to Germanic, he observed, a very significant change had occurred in the shape of consonants, particularly those labeled stop consonants, that is, consonants that temporarily stop the flow of air completely. Exactly why this change occurred is not known, and numerous theories have been put forth to explain its causes. Concentrating on the results of the change, however, Grimm noted that Indo-European p, t, and k became Germanic f, th, and ch, later h, thus explaining the connection between fatherly fish and paternal Pisces, between the House of Horns and Casa Cornuum, and between the pronoun tu in Latin and thou in English. Grimm's Law explained the changes in hundreds of words and was justifiably hailed as one of the great discoveries in historical linguistics. But unfortunately, there were also many words that did not develop according to Grimm's Law. The Indo-European root okus, for example, which occurs in the word ocular, of the eye, should have shifted to a form with h, thus och or auch. This, however, did not happen. The Germanic forms always have voiced sounds, a voiced sound being one that uses the larynx, as in voiced z versus voiceless s. Gothic has augo, Old English had eage, and Modern English has I, where y is actually a variant of an ancient g. Though one might expect Grimm to have reacted harshly to critics of his theory, which worked so well in most situations, Grimm in fact recognized the shortcomings of his law and hoped that someone would come along to find out why there were so many discrepancies, why B's were becoming B's, why T's were becoming D's, and why K's were becoming G's. What, he asked himself, had caused the voicing in these consonants?